The cold doesn't just bite, it devours. A wind moves like broken glass over the hard earth, whispering through brittle stalks and empty trees. Frost clings to the edges of the chicken coop like white rust, and the sky is the color of unspoken things, low, gray, aching. The door creaks. A hand reaches in. Small, raw. Fingers torn open by wind and survival. They tremble, not from fear, but hunger. A handful of chicken feed disappears into a thin apron. Another handful. Her breath shows in the air like smoke from a dying fire. She moves quietly, eyes darting to the house in the distance. Then the rooster screams. She flinches, too slow. The shotgun cocks. The farmhand, thick through the shoulders and bitter from too many winters, lunges. He yanks her back by the collar of her threadbare coat. Her feet scramble against the frozen mud, apron spilling grain. She doesn't scream, doesn't fight, just stares at the ground, face hidden beneath the soot-dark bonnet. He drags her through the snow, past the chicken coop, past the barking dogs chained to iron stakes, across the yard and toward the town. Her boots are mismatched, soles flapping. Her knees buckle with every few steps, but he doesn't stop. Not until the center of town, where the sign still says Mercy Ridge, though the last E hangs loose, as if unsure it belongs. The street is half snow, half slush. The townsfolk gather quick. Nothing brings warmth like someone else's shame. She's tossed down near the well, where the wind cuts deepest. Women pull their shawls tighter, watching. A boy laughs. The storekeep whispers to his wife. Names circle her like wolves. Thief. Vermin. She been here before. Godless little rat. She kneels, one hand pressed to the earth, the other cradling her ribs. Hair spills from beneath the bonnet in tangled ropes. Her face remains hidden. She does not speak. She does not beg. She stares into the mud and lets the names fall. A man clears his throat. Parson Greeley steps forward, the long black coat of self-righteousness flapping behind him. He is tall, lean, lips permanently curled as if the world smells foul. His eyes don't blink. His voice, when it comes, slices through the cold. Caught stealing feed, he says. From Clyde's yard. Same as last month. The crowd murmurs, louder now. She's not even from here. Not right in the head, maybe. Looks like a witch. Run her out again, or she'll bring more. Greeley holds up a hand. The crowd stills. Mercy, he says, is not without order. The Lord punishes the unclean, and so must we. He gestures to the post near the smithy, a weathered beam with a rusted ring and rope. Two boys run to fetch her. She doesn't move, doesn't resist. When they lift her by the arms, she groans, just once, low and broken, like a door opening onto an empty room. They tie her wrists to the post. Her breath rises in short clouds. She shivers, not from fear, from cold, from weariness, from the sheer cruelty of repetition. The crowd leans in. Someone throws a frozen clump of mud. It hits her shoulder, leaves a dark smear. A woman spits. Another laughs. And at the edge of it all, leaning against a post outside the livery, stands Jonah Ash. Long coat dusted in snow, hat low, arms crossed. A man carved out of quiet. His boots are worn raw, the right one patched with saddle leather. A rifle leans against the wall beside him, untouched. His breath shows faint in the air, but he doesn't move. He watches. His eyes are not curious, not angry, just tired, deeply, bone-heavy tired. The kind of tired that lives inside a man, where it can't be seen, only felt. The rope creaks as the girl shifts. One boy laughs and yells something ugly. The other readies the switch, thin, flexible, cold as bone. Jonah pushes off the post. He walks once across the street, slow, steady. The crowd parts for him like smoke. Greeley watches him come, but doesn't flinch. He raises his chin. You objectin', Ash? Jonah doesn't answer. You know this girl. Greeley presses. Still no answer. He stops a few feet from the post. Looks at her, finally looks. Her hair has fallen across her face. Her chin rests against her chest. Her knees are stained from the dirt. The switch is raised. Let her go. 3 words. Heavy as iron. Greeley blinks. Beg pardon. Jonah steps forward. Just one step. I said let her go. The silence after feels like snowfall. Greeley squints. You got no say here, Ash. You don't even show your face in town unless you need nails. Last I checked, justice still fell to me. Jonah doesn't argue. He just moves. Unties the rope himself. Hand steady. The boys back away. The girl slumps. He catches her before she hits the ground. No one speaks. He turns, lifts her carefully, cradles her like kindling. She doesn't fight. Her head rests against his shoulder. She weighs less than a sack of oats. Greeley's voice follows. She'll bring ruin to your door. Jonah doesn't turn. She ain't your burden, Ash. Jonah stops. Then soft, not angry. Ain't yours either. He walks away. The snow crunches under his boots. The dog barks once from the saloon steps. The church bell tolls noon, though the light never changed. No one stops him. The wind rises. The post sways behind him, rope trailing like a frayed accusation. Jonah doesn't look back. Snow fell like ash, silent and slow, covering the trail of bare feet limping out past the edge of Mercy Ridge. Her arms hung useless by her sides. She walked without aim, only away. Away from rope, from eyes, from voices that stung sharper than the switch. Her legs trembled beneath her, and the pain in her ribs flared with each step. Just before the woods swallowed her whole, her knees buckled. She collapsed beside a fallen pine, one boot lost, apron torn open, frost clinging to her lashes like salt. Her fingers curled beneath her, seeking heat from dead leaves. The air grew darker. That night, somewhere past the Black Hills, wolves howled at nothing. She didn't stir. On the other side of nowhere, Jonah Ash rode his line. The sky was copper and steel, the color of worn bullets. His horse limped with each step, favoring the left leg, but Jonah didn't push it. The land had gone near lifeless. Fence posts rotted from the base. Dry creek cut through with forgotten bones. A hawk wheeled overhead, and Jonah tipped his hat, but never looked up. He counted rails, hammered a loose nail, pulled a splinter from his palm. At the end of his ride, the house waited like a gravestone, wood gray as drift, porch bowed in the middle. Inside it smelled of oil and old wood smoke. He fed the dog from his plate, set a kettle on the stove, and stared out the window as snow began again. The fire popped once in the hearth. On the mantel, untouched for years, sat a tiny leather shoe and a comb missing 3 teeth. He didn't look at them. He never did. Morning broke pale and cruel. Jonah saddled up again before sun touched the fields. Something gnawed at his gut, not fear, not duty, just the itch of unfinished things. He rode the southern fence slower, scanning the tree line. That's where he found her, slumped beside the pine, half buried in snow, skin like wax, lips blue. She didn't wait when he slid from the saddle. Her breath was shallow, but it was there. He lifted her gently, as if she might shatter. Her head rolled against his chest, bonnet falling away, revealing a bruise across her jaw that hadn't been there before. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The cabin's door groaned open. He carried her inside, laid her on the cot near the fire, and covered her in a patched quilt. The dog sniffed her once, then backed away, tail low. Jonah lit the stove, ladled out the last of the stew, and left the tin plate beside the bed. Then he stepped outside and started chopping wood. By nightfall, she stirred. She woke to the hiss of flames and the scent of meat broth. Her fingers gripped the quilt before she opened her eyes, uncertain. The cabin was dark, save the flicker of oil light. She sat up slowly, every muscle a silent scream. No rope, no hands, no voices, just warmth. The plate sat untouched beside her, steam rising. She waited for him to return, but he didn't. Only the wind knocked once at the door, then left. Over the next days, she healed in inches. The bruises faded. Her ribs ached less. The cough loosened. He never asked her name, never offered his. He left water, bread, a tattered scarf. She didn't say thank you, but she ate. And he noticed. He worked outside from sunup to past dark, fence posts, horseshoes, broken hinges. When he returned, he nodded once and sat by the fire. She stayed curled in the corner. They shared the warmth, like two dogs in a storm. No words passed, just breath and time. She found boots by the door one morning. Not new. Stitched up. One a size too big. She put them on. One afternoon, she watched him from the window. Shirt off, mending a gate. Scars carved across his back like a map. No one followed. Bayonet wounds. Burn marks. Bullet pocks. She turned away before he noticed her staring. That night, curiosity reached where language hadn't. She explored the shelves while he was outside, careful not to disturb. In a drawer beneath old ledgers, she found a folded scrap. Ink faded, edges worn. A woman smiling, hair tied with ribbon. A child in her lap, maybe 4, with the same eyes as Jonah. She stared at it for a long time, then tucked it back without a sound. Winter deepened. The cabin groaned beneath the weight of wind and snow. Coyotes came closer each night. Jonah reinforced the windows. He started leaving a second tin cup on the table. She filled it with water before he did. But Mercy Ridge did not forget. Word spread like rot. Parson Greeley arrived one gray morning with 3 riders, hooves crunching frost. Jonah met them at the gate, rifle slung across his arm but held low. "You harboring her?" Greeley asked, teeth bared. Jonah said nothing. "She's a curse. You know that. Wasn't enough to lose your family." The other men shifted in their saddles. One spat. Another tightened his glove. "You keep her here. Folks gonna start asking what else you got buried in that house." Still, Jonah didn't answer. Just stood there, cold-eyed and straight-backed, as if carved from the very trees behind him. Greeley snorted. "This ain't the way, Ash. You taking dogs, you get fleas." He turned his horse and rode out. The others followed. That night, the wind screamed harder than it had in weeks. Snow battered the windows like fists. Inside, she sat near the fire, quilt around her shoulders, watching the door. Jonah came in late, soaked to the knees, coat crusted white. He said nothing, just stomped the snow from his boots and dropped wood by the hearth. As he moved to hang up his coat, he noticed the table. 2 plates, his and hers, and on his plate, still warm from the oven, sat a piece of bread. Not much. A scrap, maybe. But hers. He didn't look at her. Didn't need to. He sat down. And ate. By spring's first thaw, their silence had grown roots. She rose early, fed the hens without needing to be asked. He'd left a coat on a nail for her, too large and heavy, smelling of wood smoke and old leather. She wore it anyway. He mended the barn roof, hauled wood, kept quiet. She patched the seams in his shirts, sewed the buttons he never replaced. A rhythm settled between them, not joy, not peace, just something still and shared. Sometimes, in the quiet before dusk, he'd leave a scarf by her bedroll, folded neat. Once, he found an extra biscuit, left wrapped beside his saddle horn. These small things passed between them like breath, weightless, but needed. He didn't ask for her story. She didn't press for his. But something old in both of them was beginning to stir, slow and unsure, like a fire lit, from damp wood. He began walking alone beyond the fence line again, not to check posts, but to kneel beneath the birches. 2 weathered markers sat under the crooked tree. One bore the name Clara Ash. The other, smaller, read Samuel. The earth between them had sunk with the years. He brushed the snow from the stones, with a trembling hand. The wind tugged at his coat as he knelt, hat pressed against his chest. He never said much, just stared. They died while he fought in the territory. Raiders swept through in the night, burned 5 ranches before the marshals even knew. He rode home too late for the cries, the smoke, the bodies. He buried them with his own hands. Since then, Jonah Ash had saved no one, not even himself. That evening, as firelight painted long shadows across the cabin walls, she reached for another log and set it gently on the flames. Her hands paused before pulling back. She looked at him, eyes catching the light. "Elsie," she said. Just that. Her voice was hoarse, nearly gone from months of silence, but it was there, a name rising out of ashes. He looked up from his cup, nodded once. "Elsie." She turned back to the fire, said nothing more. It was enough. But Mercy Ridge did not forget. He woke to smoke, not from the hearth, Outside, the hen house burned, flames dancing against the black sky. The coop had been doused in oil, set alight, and left to roar. He and Elsie ran to fight it, but it was too late. The roof collapsed in shudder of sparks. Screeching chickens, feathers catching fire midair. She stood frozen, eyes wide, fists clenched. In the ash, someone had driven a wooden cross deep into the dirt. Words carved rough and furious, "Sinner's home." She turned fast, ran toward the house. He followed. Inside, she was already packing. Skirts bundled, a shawl in her arms. Her hands shook too hard to tie anything. The blanket fell twice. She didn't speak, just moved like a hunted thing, ready to vanish into the woods. He stepped in front of the door. She tried to push past him. He didn't raise his voice. He never did. He just laid a hand on her shoulder and held her still. Then he stepped to the desk, pulled a drawer, took out a folded paper, creased, yellowed, edges soft from time. He held it out. She stared at it like it might bite. Slowly, she took it. It was a land deed. Signed at the bottom, Jonah Ash. She looked from the paper to him, lips parted. He didn't explain. He didn't need to. He just reached for the wool blanket. She dropped and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Don't run," he said. She didn't. 2 days later, the ground thawed enough for him to carve. He knelt again between the graves, knife in hand, and shaped a new plank from cedar. The bark peeled away in ribbons. He worked in silence, shaping her name with slow, deep cuts, Elsie not beneath, beside, not replacing, adding. When it was done, he planted it in the soil, level with the others. He stood, shoulders stiff from the work. "You got a place now," he said. His voice cracked at the end. It was the first time she'd ever heard it falter. That evening, with dusk curling through the trees, he led her back beneath the birches. The snow had retreated to shadows, earth soft and dark beneath their boots. There were no witnesses, no preacher, no scripture, only the wind. He took a breath. "You can take my name, if you want it." She looked at him, the corners of her eyes shining. She didn't smile, just nodded. Slow. "Sure." He shrugged out of his old army coat, worn to the thread at the cuffs, still smelling faintly of leather, pine, and ash. He draped it over her shoulders. She pulled it close like armor. Later, they sat side by side near the grave markers. The moon climbed between the branches. The fire inside the house burned low, waiting. Elsie placed her fingers gently on the wood, that red Clara ash. Her lips moved in a whisper. "Thank you." To a woman she never knew. To the silence that had sheltered her. To the name she now carried.